I shouldn't be recording this. The manual says no personal transmissions within containment range, but the manual also says the knocking isn't real. It is. It's been going on for 43 minutes now. Slow, deliberate, like something testing the metal between us. Every hit feels heavier. You'll think I'm exaggerating until you hear the siren for yourself. It's not radiation that kills you here, it's what remembers you. That's what they never told us when we signed the non-disclosures. The light above the chamber is flickering blue again. It shouldn't do that unless someone's inside. There isn't supposed to be anyone inside. Not anymore. If this upload cuts off, you'll know it got through. If it doesn't, maybe that's safer. I can hear it whispering my name now, through the steel and coolant hum. It sounds like me, but I didn't always believe the rules mattered. Not until the night we lost control of Unit 7, working nights at the Hartwell. Nuclear plant feels like living inside a dying machine. The air hums, heavy with static and recycled heat, and the lights buzz like insects trapped behind frosted glass. After midnight, the corridors stretch too long, all identical, all echoing your footsteps back a second too late. There were only 5 of us on shift. Old hands like Brewer and Kim barely spoke. Then there was Ellis, the new guy, all nerves and coffee, and our supervisor, Harris Pale, polite eyes like burnt bulbs. He was the one who led us to the rules of safety board bolted beside the control. Dordot always greet the mirror at 2 a.m. Never acknowledge the third voice on the intercom. If the warning light turns blue, run. Ellis asked who wrote them. Harris didn't blink. They're not OSHA approved, he said. They're older. At first I thought it was just a prank for rookies. Every workplace has its rituals. Hartwell just took it to another level. The binder of official safety protocols sat beside a second folder, handwritten, greasy, passed down like scripture. Corporate paranoia meets folklore. Don't whistle in the service tunnels. Don't say your name near the coolant tanks. If you hear your own voice from a distance, don't answer. The veterans called them precautionary redundancies. I called them nonsense. Still, some of it was too specific to laugh off. Report all auditory reflections. Presence acknowledgement mandatory at mirrored surfaces. The hell does that even mean? One rule had been blacked out completely. Rule 9, a fat, dark line of marker where the words should have been. When I asked about it, Brewer just muttered, 97, and went back to his crossword. Nobody talks about 9-7. It was just another graveyard shift, until the intercom crackled. At 2:37 a.m., the intercom hissed, a faint pop, then static. I thought it was feedback from the turbine monitors until I heard my name, once, twice, drawn out, like someone tasting it, ... Evan. Everyone froze. Brewer's pen slipped from his hand. The voice repeated, softer now, too close to the mic. And then it said something no one else could have known, my mother's old bedtime phrase. One I hadn't spoken aloud in 20 years. Harris burst in, slammed the override, and the room fell dark except for the reactor gauges. For a long time, nobody spoke. When power came back, he stared straight at me. If it ever speaks back, you leave the floor immediately. No questions. He called it interference. I wanted to believe that, but it didn't sound like interference. It sounded like something remembering me. That was the first night the blue light flickered. It happened 2 nights later. No siren, no alarm, just the soft click of the blue warning light igniting above the reactor bay. We were trained to respond to red, not blue. But the veterans didn't move. They just lowered their heads, hands flat on the consoles, like a prayer they'd rehearsed too often. The glow painted everything in pale cobalt. It wasn't bright, but it pressed against my skin, heavy, alive. The air felt wrong, like it was thinking. I glanced toward the reactor glass. Something shifted behind it. Not a reflection, not a person. Just the suggestion of a shape. A silhouette that didn't hold still long enough to make sense. Ellis whispered, "It's testing us." Harris shushed him so sharply it echoed. Later, I found the manual again. Rule 9, half obscured under marker, had one legible line bleeding through. If it notices you, ... After that, I stopped calling it a job. It felt more like containment. 3 nights after the blue light, Brewer didn't show up for his shift. No one said a word until Harris announced he'd quit suddenly. That's how they phrased it, like he'd just walked out mid-routine. Not vanished from a sealed facility with biometric locks. But I found his badge later, fused into the concrete near the containment tunnel. The plastic had bubbled and warped like it had been pressed to a furnace. Except the tunnel was cold. Curiosity got the better of me. I pulled the security feed before it was scrubbed. Brewer was there, pacing, then stopping, turning to something off camera. He smiled, nodded, started talking to empty air. Then the screen erupted in static. We're told to delete footage after every shift. I didn't. That night, the intercom came alive again. Same hiss, same pop. But this time, it wasn't my voice. It was Brewer's. That's when I finally looked up Rule 9. I waited until the cameras cycled offline, then slipped into the archives. The classified logbooks were older than the plant itself, yellowed pages stamped with radiation warnings and signatures from departments that no longer existed. I found Rule 9 in a sealed folder labeled Behavioral Containment, Reactor Consciousness. The text was short, clinical, horrifying. Do not make direct visual contact with the core during an active phase. Observation invites reciprocity. The reaction is aware. It learns the minds that watch it. Energy can't be created or destroyed. But consciousness, it can be copied, buried in the footnotes where incident reports, personnel absorbed, identity overlap, cognitive echo. The reactor didn't just split atoms, it bred something from them. Some workers never left the plant. They were still here, just redistributed. That was the night I broke the rule. The night shift ran quiet, too quiet. When the lights flickered, I told myself it was a voltage dip and not an invitation. I grabbed a respirator and slipped into containment while the sensors are EBOOTED. Inside. The hum felt alive, not sound but thought. The reactor pulsed beneath the grated floor, blue veins of light crawling across the walls like veins under skin. I took one step closer to the observation glass. That's when I saw it. My reflection, half a second behind. It blinked after I did, tilted its head the wrong way. Then it smiled first. It wasn't seeing me. It was remembering me. I wanted to run, but the air had weight, pressing my body toward the glass. The whispers built into a low, familiar voice. Mine. If you ever see your reflection move first, it said, run. The alarms blared, but it wasn't the reactor melting down. It was me. I woke up in the infirmary, wrists heavy with 4 lines and a signature sheet waiting at my bedside. The form called it a maintenance error. The man in the suit called it psychological contamination. He smiled too much for someone explaining a Near-dash meltdown. They dosed me with sedatives and made me sign an NDA that stretched 10 pages deep. Every question I asked about the alarms, about Brewer, about the blue light was redirected to pending internal review. But the mirrors told a different story. My reflection blinked slower than I did. The room's corners seemed to breathe. In the glass cabinet, shadows lingered even after the lights stopped flickering. Before leaving, the rep mentioned other facilities. Project Helios, Containment Zone 3, said I was lucky. No one else survived cognitive exposure. I quit the next morning. But the plant didn't quit me. It's been 2 weeks since I left Hartwell, but the hum followed me home. At night, when the house settles, I can hear the faint static of the intercom bleeding through the walls. Sometimes, the light in the bathroom flickers blue. The mirror glows faintly after midnight. Not bright, just enough to show a second mouth moving before mine. It tries to keep up, but lately, it's getting faster. More confident, I started recording this to prove I'm still me. But this isn't my first post. The others were deleted. Maybe they were never uploaded at all. My hands look wrong under the lamp. The veins catch the light, faintly cobalt, like the reactor's pulse. If you work in energy, containment, anything with radiation, check your mirrors. Listen for the hum. If you ever take a night shift at a nuclear plant in Ohio, follow the rules, or it'll follow you.